Welcome to another episode of Daily Gym. Label a man a loser and he will start acting like one. The other day, I read a book called Give and Take. And in the book, there was a section about leaders' beliefs and how it can shape the performance, growth, and development of individuals, as well as how these beliefs can ultimately turn into self-fulfilling prophecies. In the book, two studies were referenced. The first one being a classic Harvard study conducted by Rosenthal and Jacobson, in which they did a cognitive test with children, with students, in kindergarten up to the 5th grade of elementary school. Upon completing the cognitive test, the researchers had assigned the top 20% of the students as being bloomers or high potential students that were considered to grow cognitively in an above average way over the next year compared to all the other students. And they shared these results with the teachers. 1 year later, they did a cognitive test again. And indeed, the top 20%, or the students considered bloomers or high potential students, had increased their IQ by 12 points on average, compared to the rest of the students who had only increased their IQ by 8 points. Later, however, it turned out that Jacobson and Rosenthal had not assigned these titles of bloomers or high potential to the students based on the outcome of the original cognitive test, but instead had done so in a random manner. What is meant that the original cognitive test had no impact on how the students were evaluated, but instead the growth in cognitive ability was simply due to the belief of the teacher and the environment the teacher had created around this person as a consequence. The second study referenced in the book had to do with the Israeli Defense Force. This person, Mr. Eden, had taken what was being used for the Harvard study and applied the same principles to a group of adults to see if it still works with adults as well, because children, of course, are going through a growth phase, which generally doesn't happen so much anymore with adults. And the results were pretty much the same. What Mr. Eden did with the Israeli Defense Force was indicating to some leaders that their team was expected to perform on an above average level or produce above average results based on all the tests he had conducted with their team members, while the other leaders were simply told that their team was about average. After telling them this, and then focusing on both groups over the next year or so, Mr. Eden again saw the same results as Rosenthal and Jacobson saw with the Harvard study. The leaders that were informed that their soldiers were expected to produce above average results ended up producing above average results as a team. What he saw looking at those teams were that whenever the team made a mistake, instead of viewing it as something like lacking in ability, instead the people and the leaders there viewed it as opportunities to learn and created such an environment where every mistake became an opportunity to learn, which then ultimately led an increase in ability as well as an increase in confidence. While with the average teams, the mistakes were considered something of lacking in skill, which drained the confidence from the people. As you can see from these two studies, the way you look at somebody will ultimately turn in some manner, shape, or form as a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially if you're in a position of power, in a position where the other people look up to you. The same applies to yourself. The way your manager views you, or the way people that you respect view you, can ultimately dictate how you yourself will turn out, because you care about the opinion of those people. So the advice given based on these results is, whenever you want somebody to perform better, whether it's a colleague, a dear friend, a family member, or somebody working for you, is view them in the most positive light possible. You want them to reach a certain position. Consider that their ability in the future will be able to reach that certain position. As long as you start believing that, you will start creating the self-fulfilling prophecy within yourself that person can actually reach it. And you will start noticing that whatever they do, you will start viewing that as something getting closer to that goal that you have set for them. Tomorrow I'll make another video based on how you can apply it more practically in the workplace, but that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you're watching it on YouTube, be sure to hit a like, as it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're enjoying this kind of video and you're listening on it on podcast, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll be back with another video tomorrow, and I wish you all a nice day today.